And we're
Am I
back
recording in stereo? Yes, I'm recording
on another
in
exciting
stereo.
episode
Oh, are we talking? Sorry.
of Starfleet.
No,
No,
it
it's
doesn't
fine.
matter. Who cares? Interrupt him.
Yeah.
You don't have to record in stereo, but I don't mind. I'll downgrade it to monaural.
Gives him more work.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, anything that make your life harder is actually the best idea.
Okay, so I'm going to do my recording in multiple cuts. And then
oh my God.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm hoping that my computer crashes halfway through this discussion, and then half the audio is just fucking.
Did that happen last time or something?
It did, but it saved it though. It did save it. It did save it.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
First and foremost, Sean thinks it's Gary's birthday, and so we all think it's Gary's birthday. So
why did you say think? Look, I have a calendar. I have a personalized calendar at home, and it says it's Gary's birthday. So if I'm not mistaken, right?
I have a lot of questions about that.
Gary's birthday?
No, just the fact that you have a personalized calendar at home with all of our birthdays, or is it just Gary's birthday?
I think it's just Gary's. I think I don't know you guys' birthdays, which means you're probably not on the calendar yet. But you could be on next year's calendar. You could make it to the calendar.
And what is with these calendars? What are you, Brett Kavanaugh? What is? What is
mine is May 11th.
So I gotta write this down.
Yeah. Don't forget to schedule your workout times with Squee.
May 11th. What's the year? Is there a year on that?
Yeah, 1978. I'm the oldest one here.
1978. This is pre-TNG.
Yeah, that's a pre-TNG.
I'm gonna gatekeep. Wow. I'm gonna gatekeep time from you guys.
It's pre-TNG.
Wow. You guys can't. Yeah, that sounds like something you would do. A TOS fan.
You guys can't have the 70s. You're not allowed. You're not allowed to have the 70s. Sorry.
You can't have YouTube. You're too old.
That's right. That's right. You know, it's funny you say that because I was talking about being an older fan of Trek. Like, I was actually talking to my dad earlier today, and I was telling him about how everyone's like freaking out and like the gatekeeping and all that stuff like that. And he's like, well, why don't you just get on YouTube and just tell people it's just a show and that they shouldn't take it so seriously? And I'm like, yeah, that's going to work perfectly. Let me tell you all about that. Everyone's going to love that. I was like, he's like, well, you know, TOS was the best show. I mean, you don't need to say anything else more than that. I was like, get out of my face.
Okay, well, that's an argument.
Yeah.
On that subject, everyone pause this video or your podcast and head over to Ketwalski's YouTube page and watch his video on gatekeeping. It was actually, I was like super, not that it was actually awesome. I mean, I expected it to be awesome, but it was really awesome.
I didn't see it in advance this time. I feel betrayed.
I know.
Yeah, I delayed this recording so I could go watch it, and I was very pleased. So thank you.
What's funny is, like, I uploaded that video like 6 days ago. And it's just been sitting there because I was like, I don't want to release it yet because everyone's still freaking out about the Midnight's Edge video. So I have to let that hatred die down, because if I release a video too soon after that, I'm just going to get a bunch of downvotes. You know, the anger, the salt is strong.
The salt is strong. We'll help you through it. This is your support group.
I need a support group.
I'm interested to watch a video actually, because I think gatekeeping is a word that's been invented not by the gatekeepers themselves, but by people that are threatened by them. But
I mean, the term itself, I think, it's a very defensive term. Itself is, I think, new-ish, but I would say the concept of it, which I do talk about in the video, is like it's been around since forever. You know, it's been around for a very long time, and I don't want to talk just about like that for this video, but like the story that I talk about in the video is, like, when I was like a kid, like I say a kid, but I was, you know, late teens when I first joined the military, and I got shut down by an old school comic fan because I told him I liked the Iron Man movie, you know? And he was like, "Oh, you don't know
Tony, right?"
Yeah, his fake name was Tony in the story I told. But
I suppose there's a fine line. There's a fine line between shutting people down and encouraging them to to learn more about where the franchise comes from, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. You know, and that I think that's why I made the video, is just because people like to just spout it off, and it is a very serious problem now. But there's a balance.
Universal experience. To kind of, you're gonna watch the video, but to sum it up, you got real and vulnerable there, and I really appreciated that because it's a universal experience. I think we've all kept a gate of some sort, whether it's like Star Trek or Dungeons and Dragons or just something that, right. Whatever it is, it's like something that we've all done it before, and you realize quickly when it's kept on you how bad it is. And so it's like a learning experience, I think, that many humans go through. And like, yeah, so I definitely like, I'm glad I learned, I was burned early too, with a gatekeeper on something completely different, which is Star Wars actually. And, and so yeah. You know, and so I feel like, oh, you know, learning that at a young age, I was more conscious of it, and I don't tend to gatekeep consciously, but yeah, it's like, it's an interesting thing, and it's definitely a subject. What's that?
You've both actually been through this?
Yeah, man, several times. And even before YouTube, like before YouTube, like YouTube, like you're on the internet, you're saying things, people are going to say that stuff. Like it's just, you know, part of pop culture now as part of it all. And then being a YouTube content creator, or really anybody that produces shit for social media, I think it's going to happen. But yeah, this happened to me long before then, long before I did YouTube.
I've been like bullied. I was bullied as a child, generally speaking. This isn't nothing to do with like Star Trek or anything. But when it comes to gatekeeping, I've never really experienced that, because if someone comes at me with like an argument of I don't know enough, I'm usually so argumentative and stubborn that I'm going to go and learn everything I can and then come back at them and be like, well, now
that's a really great and healthy response to being.
But it's because I don't want to lose, and I don't like being wrong. And so I will learn as much facts as I can, and I'll just come back at you with facts. Which is very frustrating to be in a community where Midnight's Edge and Doomcock and whatever exists, because they like, you can't fight them with facts, because they thrive off Fantasyland. So I don't I don't even know how to handle that.
You know, they
do. I don't even know how to handle that, but
yeah, I mean, it's yeah, but I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead, Sohail, go ahead.
Oh no, finish your thought. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say the thing is like what's interesting is like specifically like Midnight's Edge, like they don't do gatekeeping in their video, but what they say and the information that they go about talking about it encourages other people to take that information and then gatekeep others with it, which is the whole reason I made my video to begin with, which was a response back to that kind of mentality where they take the ideas that are being presented and then they try to turn it onto other people. And it's like, well, oh, this is a new franchise and it has a new license and it's new canon. So all of you guys trying to defend it are terrible and you're not really Star Trek fans. Like that even happened to me on Twitter just recently. You know, I was getting bombarded with all these tweets from people saying like, you're like, somebody legitimately said to me that what I was doing was hurting the fandom by trying to say positive things about Discovery. But I understand their point though. I can't sit there and say like they're crazy.
Line though, because I understand there's also this point of view where I'm not a fan of Discovery per se, and I wouldn't want Star Trek to become like Discovery. I don't mind having Discovery within the franchise, but I wouldn't want the franchise to become like Discovery, if that makes sense. But the thing is, if there are so many people that enjoy Discovery, then eventually that will become the base format and replace what I knew before. And in that situation, I have lost my franchise. So am I a gatekeeper for saying, hey, maybe we could not encourage so much the studio to go in that direction? Is that gatekeeping?
I think it's okay to operate on two different levels. On the one level, you're invested in the television show because you've put so much thought and like hours and hours of like your time into watching it, and so you have this like certain expectation. So it's perfectly natural to feel disappointed when the show is not meeting your expectation. On the other level, you're a Star Trek fan and you want to more about the world, and Discovery does add to the world building, just knowledge of what Star Trek is, even if it's not exactly like what one might hope it is, you know? So there's like, I think there's like those two levels, and it's kind of hard to like play at them. And and then there's an added level for the three of us. We do these about it, so we kind of have to watch it. Like I can't just say like, oh, this is just that's it, right?
So you're a fan of Star Wars because you maybe like the space fantasy aspect. It's more a space fantasy than a science fiction, right? And And so,
yeah, I would say I agree with George Lucas's assessment that Star Wars is a fantasy more than it's a sci-fi.
Okay, so I enjoy the sci-fi aspect of Star Trek more than I enjoy the fantasy aspect of Star Wars, right? And I wouldn't want Star Trek to become fantasy, right? And Discovery seems to be pushing it a little bit in that direction because
that's a great argument to have.
They're doing the magical mycelial. I have nothing against the mycelial network,
it's not magical. Paul Stamets is the real person. Go read his research.
I know, but that's okay. Please don't go into that because that's.
I have tried a magic mushroom though when I was in Amsterdam, and
my god, this is not the right discussion.
It was more like the Matrix than Star Trek.
They're doing magical technology and stuff like that. And if they were to push that and keep on pushing that, then eventually Star Trek would become more like Star Wars, and then I would have no more Star Trek. I would just have 2 Star Warses, and I don't want that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I do.
So I really hope that what they're trying to do is have different visions, and really they're going to make Picard TNG-esque, right? And Discovery is its own thing. Picard will be TNG-esque. Maybe The Wrath of Khan will be the original series-esque.
Well, I would say that I would argue that I actually don't want the Picard show to be TNG-esque. And the reason I say that is I want them to create something that is unexpected, that is really good. And I would tie it back into another Patrick Stewart production, which was the film Logan, which is by and by a superhero movie. It's supposed to, it has superhumans in it. They have superpowers. It's an X-Men film, but they took that concept and made it something totally different, which was really good. They made a really good script and had a really good film that a lot of people liked. I loved the movie. So I would want them to do something like that.
Movie in all of the X-Men franchise.
Right, exactly. So that's why I say, like, I don't want them to just sit there and say, like, well, we need to recapture TNG with the Picard show. I would prefer them to just do something new, unique, but good. Like, make it good.
But I'm afraid of their new and uniqueness. I'm afraid of what they consider bold, and I'm afraid of what they consider unique.
Don't be afraid. It's the undiscovered country. Also, Patrick Stewart said he's really turned on
the undiscovered country.
I know you love Star Trek 4. Patrick Stewart said he was very turned on by what he was what it's coming, shaping up to be. So I'm excited. That excites me. I'm very turned on that Patrick Stewart is turned on.
I respect Mr. Patrick Stewart very much, and I am very, very happy to see that he is part of the production team as well as being an actor. But he also decided to voice the poop emoji in the Emoji Movie, which means
you can't blame
someone. I mean, right?
Are all your choices perfect, Sean? Like,
absolutely not.
Let he who casts the first stone, or let ye who, whatever. I don't know the expression. It's like, let Patrick be a poop.
Yeah, I mean, I take the fact that
in the beginning of your career, it's fine, but like if you're someone that's not important or not a legend, it's fine. But when you're someone of, so Patrick Stewart is like a living legend, right? He doesn't
let him be a person, bro. Let him be a bro. Let him be
I
happy.
would argue that I understand the point you're making, Sean, but at the same time, like, I understand that Hollywood actors will take those kinds of roles so that they can pay for, a vacation.
Or to do riskier stuff.
Okay. So why not be a character in like an actual movie, like one of the Disney productions or one of the Pixar productions? Why did you have to be in the Emoji Movie?
Because it's fucking easy to do voice work. He didn't even have to disguise his voice. He was just Patrick Stewart's voice. They probably didn't even show up to his studio. They probably came to his house.
It's true. It's true. Can you just read these lines? We'll manipulate them digitally later.
Yeah,
anyways,
I'm tragically offended.
Back to the point at hand. I have to try to be a moderator. Sometimes these discussions can get really, interesting and go off in other directions. But real quickly, back to the point, which is, first of all, happy birthday, Gary. We love you so much. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. You chop so many vegetables. Happy birthday to you.
Enjoy your vegetable stew. Enjoy your vegetable cake. I'm sure you're going to have some kind of carrot cake or something.
we really love it when you're
freshly peeled carrots in there.
And audience, I know you love to see Gary too, and I'm sorry I'm often disorganized. I just had a computer crash, so I'm not as good at organizing these events as I should be, but I'm getting better every time, and that's all that matters. And today we're here to talk about Star Trek Discovery Episode 6 of Season 2.
The Sound of Thunder. Is that a demon thunder? Is that what that was? I like that.
Is the Baul thunder that you hear?
That's good.
Apparently, the title of the episode is another reference to Greek mythology, but I don't know enough about Greek mythology to be able to pick up on all of them.
Yeah, it is. I read the before I did my review.
Is it video worthy? Do I have to talk about it in my video? No.
Nah.
Tell us about the Greek.
I already forgot it. I'm sorry.
Okay, never mind.
Okay. Moving on.
It's my bad.
She mentions Aeschylus, and I didn't have time to look up Aeschylus, and I didn't remember Aeschylus from school, but I think it probably has to do with a lot of interesting things. But I think we can probably come to the conclusions because this episode doesn't really, it doesn't really like take a lot to understand what's going on. I had to watch it twice though. To understand it better. I do have to admit the first time maybe I was just too emotionally affected by it or whatever, but the second viewing I actually understood a lot more. A lot of my questions were answered. But any one of you guys want to do a quick summary, or I could give it a try?
Oh, I'll do a great summary of this.
Yes, go.
Oh my god.
Yes, I love it.
I can feel it. Oh.
Yes. All right, give the stage to you, Ketwolski.
So the episode is centered around Saru going through puberty and him feeling very unsure of himself, growing older. So he wants to, deal with that. And while they're having a discussion about that, one of the I've lost count with how many red bursts there are. Originally there were 7. Now there's, I don't know, whatever. So a new red burst appears. Yeah, it's ridiculous. A new red burst appears over Kaminar. The Discovery goes there. Immediately, Pike loses control of what's going on. The Baul are like affecting the ship somehow and like appearing to like mess with the lighting and stuff. Saru freaks the hell out and starts, wanting to go down to the planet to try to liberate. Not the whole point of them going down to the planet is to not liberate the Kelpians, but to just find out if anyone knows anything about the Red Woman, which is a stupid premise for them going down there to begin with. So him and Michael go down there, and they go back to his village, which was also a bad idea because it's not like people wouldn't recognize him, which, of course, they immediately run into his sister, who immediately recognizes him, and they immediately, violate the Prime Directive there. And then it escalates because the Baul want to capture and retake control over Saru. Pike says no. Then Saru goes down to the planet to get captured anyways. And then the Baul are going to kill him. And then we uncover through the magic of the sphere that appeared a few episodes ago that 2,000 years ago, the Kelpians were all post-puberty, and they were the dominant species on the planet and almost killed off all of the Baul. And then somehow the Baul got the upper hand and wiped out most of the post-pubescent Kelpians, and now keep them more docile by killing all the Kelpians off before they lose their ganglia. And they have established a new, essentially a new balance, a new order on the planet. And then they relay this to Saru, and then the Discovery decides to use radio waves across an entire planet to force an evolutionary change for probably millions, if not hundreds of millions of Kelpians all at once. And then the Red Woman appears, disables all of the Baul technology, and then they just fucking leave and just, I guess, let them go about their day. And that's it. That's the end of the episode.
That's a really good bare bones summary.
There's also Culber.
Yeah, you totally
skipped Culber.
I forgot, just like the Discovery writers forgot that Culber was in this episode. No. I forgot. Right. There's a scene right at the beginning where Culber's like freaking out, and he's like,
Buff Culber.
But yeah, man,
he's
Culber's
fucking wow.
Yeah, listen, Stamets, he's way out of your league. Okay.
Culber's looking good. All right. He's back with the gray hair. He's buffed up. He's looking.
Listen, I'm not gay, but that's an attractive man. Okay. They got him in there.
You're looking for a doctor, right?
Yeah, he's like, you guys need a checkup, and he's like, yeah. I'm like, hell yeah.
He's just okay. So he would break the hypospray now, just like pick it up and
yeah, right, exactly. Like,
wow, you guys.
Like, yeah, for a guy who was trapped in the for a long time, looks like he's been getting a little bit of that protein. Like he's been.
Well, he did get it. Is he more swole this season?
I think
than
he
last season.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Wow.
So his new body, because this is
a brand new body that was created through the Genesis.
It's enhanced, isn't it?
Well, we don't know that it's enhanced because Dr.
It's at peak perfection.
Everything's the same. It's just that he's pristine. Yeah, he's pristine.
Do you think he'll be able to actually be sick or be wounded, or do you think they made his body now and that's gonna be it? He's gonna like stay like that. Imagine if he were immortal. Imagine if he would stay like
Ilea. What if he's like Ilea? It's like kind of like when V'ger reconstructs Ilea in Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
You want to go? You're making V'ger references now?
Kirk unit.
Why not? Why not Kirk unit? Culver unit.
My celibacy is intact. Thank you.
I think the first question I have from your summary is it puberty? I mean, I feel like the Vaharai, is that what it's called? The Vaharai.
Yeah, Vaharai.
The Vaharaja.
Vahari.
No, the
Vaharai. Did you know? Sorry, I'm getting distracted from myself. But did you notice that Burnham said the Bayul, and then everyone else says the Baul?
Yeah.
To be fair, Dumbledore says Grindelwald.
That's true.
Yeah,
wow.
They don't. It was all the time.
But then, I mean, he's been intimate.
I just think it's funny that Sonequa Martin Green's on set with like everyone at. Ooh,
how do they make these mistakes though?
And she's hearing everyone say Baul, but then she's like, I'm just gonna say Bayul because like that's what I want to say. Like,
listen, you know what's funny though? You bring that up as like an error, but that's more realistic that not everyone would pronounce the term
the same
correctly.
Yeah,
because if we were all on a starship in space and people were talking about, if you wrote down the words Baul, I'd be like, like I wouldn't know how to say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Bail.
Good point.
But
is it puberty because the Kelpians clearly reproduce? Like I get what you mean that you're calling it puberty because it's a life change of some sort, right? But is it? I think it's more like I don't know what I would.
It's something that
I don't know. I don't know enough about biology.
We don't know. Yeah. We don't have this. We're humans. We don't change like
we
this.
don't grow horny spikes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm calling it puberty as like a joke. I don't think it's.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
Puberty, but I don't know. I mean, it's just it's whatever. The Vaharaja, and after that they grow the crazy. What reminded me immediately of, which is what are those plants? The Venus flytrap teeth is what pops out.
Oh yeah,
and it shoots.
Totally.
He can shoot darts from his neck, which if they don't use that again later, is a huge missed opportunity. I want to shoot.
I know. I agree.
All the time.
Isn't this similar to the way like Kiss evolves eventually?
Oh, this is where my eyes blank. Gatekeepers, keep me out.
Doesn't Kiss become a non-corporeal being at some point?
Are you saying Kiss, like the band?
No, Kiss.
Who is Kiss?
Freaking Voyager.
Voyager.
God damn.
My mind was way.
She's in friggin' 3 entire seasons of the show.
Cool. It would be cool if the band Kiss.
I thought you said the band, like my mind went totally
evolved and left planet Earth. Like,
nope. Well, I guess. I mean, maybe
there is a connection because I feel like that's a theatric that the band Kiss would definitely have, is like spike things growing from their necks and shooting out into the audience.
It turns out that Kiss weren't actually humans; they were Kelpians all along. And
thematically it makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense thematically.
Okay, so
were you guys surprised? At the actual relationship between the Baul and the Kelpians? Because we've been speculating on what it was going to be like. We thought that maybe the Baul ate the Kelpians. We thought that maybe like they were, as a joke, we were saying they were transporting them to the mirror universe.
We don't know.
I'm not surprised. You know what? I am surprised. And you want to know why I'm surprised? Is that the only thing that really didn't make any sense is why the Baul would keep the Kelpians around. Because, like you just said, they didn't need them. Like they weren't harvesting their organs. They didn't need them for sustenance. Like there was no true like relationship between the two of them.
Well, that's not established. You don't know that.
Well, that's true.
They don't talk about it. They might still be eating them. They might be using them to fuel their ships.
Well, that fluid that they swim around in might be all Kelpian blood or something. I don't know. You know, like it could all. Yeah.
That's real nasty.
So the thing is, they essentially won the war 2,000 years ago,
right?
And they only became warp capable 20 years ago. So
what if the Baul
2,000 years they had no warp capability, but I suppose they did have tech. I'm assuming that the war was between these very weak Baul and these very strong Kelpians, and so they developed tech to beat them. Do they need Kelpians to power the tech, maybe?
But the problem I have with that, though, I have a lot of problems with this episode. Like the tech doesn't even like the Baul are these creepy, you know, slimy tar monster creatures, but yet they have drones that are like from the video game Destiny. Like the technology doesn't reflect.
Shellyak, they live in these like these pylons of light.
But like what I'm saying is the Baul clearly are hanging out in these black puddles, right?
Under the oceans.
When did they have time to get out of the puddle, make a drone, and then what? Did they get a rag and like clean it to make it look really nice? Like, wouldn't it be covered in like black goo and shit everywhere?
Do these go? Okay, so my biggest question was,
why do they even have hallways? Why do they even have hallways on their command center? It's like there's a lot of questions.
Originally, the Kelpians live on the beaches and in the forests, right?
I think it seems like the relationship between the Baul and the Kelpians are similar to that of the Gungans and the
right. It's a symbiotic relationship. What happens to one of you will affect the other. You must understand. Right. That's so pretty cool.
But we don't know what that symbiosis is. Even Saru on the beach with Burnham says that the relationship, they're so intertwined, but I couldn't actually see the intertwining. I do have to say that that's something that wasn't clear. It's like there seems more like a separation. It's like the Baul's technology is to keep the Kelpians in this primitive state, but what's the purpose of it other than perhaps the only thing I could see is that maybe the Baul being, you know, technologically advanced, or maybe even in a twisted way, are also advanced in thought. They can't conceive of like killing the Kelpians for whatever reason. Of course, they set up a technology to mass slaughter them if they need to, but like
right, that's what I would say. I would say that theory is blown out of the water by the fact that they have the ability and intentionally established a way to kill all of them all at once.
But we have that too. So we have that too. Nuclear arms, right? Like we could kill all of humanity can kill itself if it wants to, but we don't do it. So that is the question. Why don't?
But we don't do that because there's mutually assured destruction.
Right.
Killing off the Kelpians would do nothing to them other than their ability to then live on the entire planet instead of a ship under the ocean.
Why are the Kelpians still not advanced? Why are they still in this situation? Because the fact that they don't evolve. The fact that they don't evolve doesn't change shit, right? They can still like advance.
The Baul's whole technology is created to keep the Kelpians at a certain level of industrialization, right? Like pre-industrial, you know. That's what it seems like, though, because
that
it's
is
like
what it seems like. That is, but it's not explained, right? But it is what it seems like. Like if I was a Kelpian and I suddenly figured out how to work a furnace and start forging steel, like a steel door,
they would call you, kill you.
They would call me and blow up my steel door, and then they would make it so that the priests would keep that shit on lock. They would like keep it
pre-steel people.
Yeah,
right.
That's that. I agree that it wasn't established, but I'm willing to accept that that's what they're doing in the background. But the relationship as to why they keep them alive is not really clear.
They have to be using them in order for the story
to do something, right? I agree, but
they have to be using the Kelpians for something. They might be eating them, but then they would have just cut Saru up and eat him on the ship, right? But they might.
I don't know. It's unclear.
They are using them. They have to be, because then it makes this whole thing pointless.
So that's definitely maybe we'll get an answer to in the future. But that was definitely something that like kind of, you know, I think could have been answered in this episode very easily. It could have been answered in a line or in like, you know, some kind of thing. I guess we'll go. What's that?
Let's get into the. Can we get into the big thing? Can we get into the big thing, which is
Yeah.
That they should not, Discovery should not have forced the evolutionary change on the Kelpians. I understand that they were being subjugated. I understand that they were being slaughtered and culled, but the Discovery did not have the moral, legal right to force an evolutionary change on every single Kelpian in existence on that planet. They didn't have the right to do it, and they shouldn't have. It's not even a protected planet. It's not a Federation planet. They're not Federation citizens. This is an alien world with alien culture and alien society, and just because we disagree with it, as I say we, as in like humans would disagree with what they're doing, because that's what they're presenting to us in the show, we would inherently disagree with what they're doing. We don't have the authority and right to intervene.
They were in a tough spot though, because they only decided to do that once the Baul said, "Oh yeah, well, okay, like if you're not going to return this guy to us, then we're just going to like, destroy all Kelpians or whatever."
No, they said they were going to destroy one village.
Or one village or whatever.
Their response to the Pike decision that was killing everyone.
Upon second viewing, like I still have that problem. Don't get me wrong, but I've softened a little on the position, because on the second viewing, it seems like what's the name of Saru's sister? Sorry, I forgot her name. Sarana, thank you. Saran Wrap. Sarana Wrap. Sarana is the one who actually like basically requests that all the Kelpians be somehow enlightened, and then they come up with this crazy plan of like, well, that frequency worked on Saru, so let's try it on the whole thing. I do think that we need a follow-up episode where things go to shit. Like I do think that like we need another visit to Kaminar where we see the repercussions of these actions, and I think that like maybe this could be like a mark on Pike's record. We don't know much about Pike, so it would be fine to have anything like that, but I mean, it would be neat. It'd be interesting if Discovery goes in that direction. I don't think it's going to do it.
I don't think so.
But I think it would be very okay. So it would be so interesting to me if we were to come back to this planet in season 3 and see that the Kelpians they've wiped out the bowl, right?
They would.
They are a predatory species, because it's established that they run fast. They're very strong. They've got spikes now. They were made to be the predators, right? And so it would be really interesting if they just, in vengeance, murder all. Right, they just wiped them out.
Right,
they've stolen their tick, and they're learning how to use the friggin' tick, right, or some shit. And now they've become a threat. Well, maybe not that big, but they've at least destroyed everyone. And so when we go back, we're like, holy shit! And so not only does Pike have to live with that, but Saru has to live with the fact that his decisions essentially instigated a genocide.
And if they do that, which I really don't think that they will, but if they did. That would be some heavy shit.
That would be like one of the best arcs regarding the Prime Directive.
Yes, absolutely, because you actually get to see, because again, like
we've never seen the impact of a wrong decision, a very terrible wrong decision being made.
We've talked about it.
We've been lucky that the violations have turned out in our favor, and so to speak. Yeah, you're right.
Right, and the thing is several things are at play right at the end of the episode. Right, we know for sure that the Kelpians are super strong and super fast. We know that for sure from what Saru did in season 1.
We also know that Saru has trouble controlling himself when he doesn't have gear to hold himself back from the Pavo episode.
Pacem Parabellum, there you go, the Blue Planet episode establishes that a Kelpian without fear is the most
super dangerous
shit ever. Right,
it's super dangerous. And he's super dangerous.
In this episode as well. It reestablishes that. So all of these guys are going crazy.
So that's two things that they've established already before we even get into the episode. Just as the beginning, I think it's Saru's going crazy because he doesn't have his gangly anymore, and he's being an aggressive a-hole. They do drop that element in the story about how right as he meets his sister, they don't touch on that fact that Saru's being really aggressive again. They don't touch on it anymore. But
he seems to get it. He seems to get it under control.
The thing is, though, now there's millions of Kelpians that have been. Keep in mind, and
without the benefit of Starfleet,
I don't think they dropped the thing, by the way.
And they just it just happened to them. How many of them are going to be like, well, what the hell, dude? So I didn't want this.
Would you have preferred the decision? So keeping in the same vision, right? Keeping the same intent. Would you have preferred if they had, say, for example, just shut down all the Baul tick rather than force evolve everyone. They had shut down, like they had stopped the balance and let those that needed to evolve, for example.
I actually think if they go further with this, it's an interesting story. I think if they go further, it is an interesting story. That's what I think.
I agree with you there. The other thing I wanted to touch on, though, is the last thing is Pike raised the objection of doing this, the evolution thing. And Burnham assured him, very foolishly, that the Ba'ul have the technology, so it'll be a long time before the Kelpians ever become a threat to the Ba'ul. And then right at the end, the Red Woman shows up and deactivates all of the Ba'ul technology on the planet. So now they're actually equal again. Where the Kelpians, who are going to be super pissed when they find out that the Ba'ul have just been killing them for no reason, and the Ba'ul, who live in these weird pools that now have no technology with which to defend themselves, and the Discovery just fucking leaves. Like they just left. Like,
okay, so here's my question: does that make
destroyed their whole culture and then you just left?
Does this make this a bad episode, or does it mean that you disagree with the way that this specific Starfleet vessel and characters dealt with the issue? Because I think that the episode is still interesting and good because it presents to you two new alien species. It shows you their backstory, how they work, or how the relationship doesn't really exist, etc. It shows you all of these interesting things. And the problem is dealt with in a way that we essentially disagree with. But does it make it bad television? Apart from the fact that Saru beams off the ship when in red alert with the shields up.
But a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that.
We're going to get to the nitpick corner. We save all this stuff for the nitpick. We have a new segment on the show called the nitpick corner, and we go all out on the nitpick. So yeah.
No, I would say that the reason why I consider it to be a bad episode is just based off the plot. They established their A and B stories right at the beginning, and then they drop the Culber subplot, and then they also drop the Saru being angry subplot.
I don't think they dropped that.
I don't feel like, but they didn't touch on it again. Like he doesn't act like an a-hole any other time.
Okay, I would argue that he was being an asshole because he wanted to do something, and then when he was able to do that something, he didn't need to be an asshole anymore. He was with his sister, and he was accomplishing the thing that he wanted to, so he had no reason to be an asshole anymore.
Oh, so the Kelpians, millions of Kelpians, are only going to be an asshole when they want something? Yeah, that's going to be great for their culture. No, it's not.
Right.
But you see what? Okay, the thing is, if I wanted something like, not talking generally speaking, just like as a person, when something frustrates you, you tend to get like a little agitated or irritated, and when things are going your way, then you calm down. And I thought it was just that. Like he was angry because he wanted to do this, he wanted to do that, and then when he was able to do that, he was calm.
So is that now every time that Pike disagrees with him, he's just going to smash his console?
Maybe.
Can we talk about that scene?
And that's okay.
We talk about.
It would be amazing to have an entire arc, which because the Data character turned out good, the Spock character turned out good. All of these characters turned out to be good characters. It'd be amazing if Discovery said, well, our character turned out to be the worst friggin' decision Starfleet's ever made. We should never have granted him asylum. We should have never brought him on because now he's instigated a friggin' war and he's mad. And throughout these next 3 seasons, it would be.
I don't think that's what's going to happen to Saru.
They'll never do this.
I feel like Saru. I feel like it's a great idea. I just don't think that's what lays in store with him. I feel very strongly that Saru is going to be one of these characters that is going to find redemption somehow, or there's going to be. But I think it's interesting if they do it the other way. I think that would be very, very
what's
cool.
Interesting? They distance themselves from the episodic format because they claim that the episodic format of TNG resets at every episode, right? But then, and they say that they're doing serialized TV and that everything's going to have lasting repercussions and an impact. That's not true. Nothing in Discovery has any impact on anyone whatsoever. And every time they just go back to base Burnham, base Saru, base Stamets, every time.
So I would say another thing that is starting to grate me a little bit, and I know we're about to ramp this up again because Spock is on the next episode. It just seems like last week's episode was it's just really frustrating because first we had Saru dying, right? And that was Michael Burnham's best friend is going to die. Then we had Tilly trapped in the Mycelial network. Then it was Michael Burnham's best girlfriend that was going to die, and we had to get her back. Now this one, it was again Michael Burnham's best friend that had to deal with his sister. Now we're going to deal with Michael Burnham and her brother. And it's like every single thing is Michael Burnham and company.
But then she's the main character, though.
Different, but it still bothers the shit out of me. It still bothers me. It's like it's Michael Burnham and crew, you know, and it's like. It's just every episode is revolving around how she's dealing with.
It's really tough stuff because we're kind of conditioned, and rightfully so, to like really align with the captain or as the main character of a Star Trek show. You know what I mean? Like it's like that's how like we've been used to seeing it, and you know, I have to say that there are times where the Michael Burnham central plot thing. I think why it doesn't work is because it seems like it's what Sean and you have been saying. I think Sean especially says is it seems like the writing is, you can see through the writing. It's like obvious that they're making it about Michael, right? Right. So I do agree. I think that this show should. I think this show should, like, as much as I love Sonequa Martin Green, and I love, you know, I do love the character overall. Like I don't, you know, I have some small qualms with her. Like in the first season, especially, I was like, this is so weird, like a resident Starfleet officer to behave. It's just like a lot of things, right? But anyways, like, yeah. but like aside from that, like I do think that the show should shift to an ensemble show. I feel like it's trying to do that. I feel like the show is trying to like be more inclusive this season of other characters. Like there's so much time left. I think after this season it might be so. Okay, guys, the Red Angel, it seems to me like they are taking this to a Burnham end. Like I think that Burnham is the Red Angel. I don't know why I feel that way, but I just feel like strongly.
So the thing is
not yet,
but do you think that maybe that's going to be the shift? Like maybe Burnham leaves the show. That would be weird and crazy, but it could happen.
No, they won't do that because they want a female black lead, right? So they won't do that.
Not until the show's over, right?
I have no problem with Michael Burnham being the focus. What I have a problem with is we don't see how should I say this? We're not seeing Starfleet through her perspective, because the Starfleet that we know and that has been established to exist in Star Trek doesn't exist in Discovery. If we were following Michael Burnham all the time, but then she would walk in, say, to Pike's office, and Pike would be sitting there, right, at the end of the table, at the conference room, and there would be a chief engineer that doesn't exist yet. There would be a chief engineer. There would be a chief medical officer. You would have the bridge crew, and she would walk in, and then Pike would stand up and start talking with Burnham. We would follow that Burnham perspective, but you would also know that there is a Starfleet hierarchy and a Starfleet structure going on the ship. You would know that exists. But for the moment, what they've established is no one friggin' matters on the ship. Only Burnham does. And
I don't think that's true. I disagree with you. I think that this season,
chief engineer. They never go to main engineering.
No, I agree that there are weird. I agree that there are weird. I agree that the show's weird.
Grief-stricken farmer. He doesn't need.
I agree that
he should be in his quarters at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I understand the point that you're making because I know, Sohail, I know that you disagree, but I want to throw this on you real quick before you do your response to what Sean just said, which is what something that irked me a lot was right at towards the end of the episode when Saru was trying to contact Discovery with his makeshift communicator. The comm guy.
That's my whole nitpick corner, by the way. Go on.
I know. Yeah, the comms guy says we're getting a hail from the Ba'ul, and Pike turns to look at Michael for I don't know whether support, affirmation,
You're right.
authorization, and then she says we should take that, and then he turns and says, "Go ahead." What? But this is the same guy who just last week. Ash Tyler says one word on the bridge, and he turns around and says, "Why don't you shut the fuck up, unless you're being talked to?" And it's like, how is that guy also the guy who has to ask Michael?
I was a little perturbed. I was a little perturbed by the whole. Yeah, I was perturbed by that dynamic, but I was also perturbed that like the bridge got a little out of control with the Saru situation. Like I would have thrown him into the brig. Like I would have been like, I would have put him down. Like I would have just been like, Hazer, bam. Like you're not gonna threaten me.
I feel like all of the captains that have dealt with Burnham and Saru over the years have been bullied.
Oh my god!
Because Burnham and Saru, they're like a force of bullying officers, right? I feel like they bullied their way onto the bridge, and now they're just pushing people around. They're making the calls, they're making the shots, and everything they do is terrible.
That's it.
They've instigated the war. They're destroying Kaminar.
They've instigated the war.
Everything they do is just
There's 2 wars for them. That's 2 wars. Now they're going to have a Kobe and Ba'u war.
Yeah, right. I mean, goddamn.
One can't accuse Discovery of being low stakes, I guess, but yeah, that's a really good point. But I feel that the show is attempting to course correct in even this as well. I do agree that Burnham. I think that the show is trying its best to kind of bring it back to what feels more balanced, more right. I don't think the experiment of a lower decks personnel, which she's not, she's a commander, worked. Like, I don't think it's interesting to just follow one character.
That's wrong. It was done wrong. That's the problem. You can follow a first officer and the evolution of a first officer throughout Starfleet. That would be very interesting, right? You had
it's called Riker. We follow his whole journey, and he
because that's
until
not true.
After season 7.
That's not true. He exists within the cast, but you're following the story of Picard and Data, essentially. But Picard, because you know everything that's going on the ship at all times. If you were to follow the evolution of an officer, then at first you would have like a first season where he just knows what's like going on the lower decks. That's interesting. Second season, he's on the bridge maybe, or she's on the bridge. The officer is seeing more of what's going on. But then you could do like becomes first officer, is more aware as part of the staff meetings, etc., and then eventually becomes captain. It's
I think the show should have been even more bold and started with Ensign Burnham or Cadet Burnham. Like, I think it should have I think it should have gone even further, and that way she can make these kinds of mistakes, and we're like, oh, but she's just a cadet, right? Like, or she's just, I mean, like a commander. I don't sometimes that Burnham does.
Well, because again, like we're saying, like she's a commander, she's a science officer, but one of the things is that she was a first officer on the Shenzhou for probably several years.
7
years. Yeah.
7 years.
So she's ready for the command chair. And actually, I'm surprised that they were giving her a pardon for what she did, and they gave her a medal.
Why didn't they just give her the captaincy of the Discovery, right?
Why didn't they just put her as a captain? Right. I don't know. But the thing is, though, is Saru's going to be the captain of the Discovery at the end of the season. The reason I think so is because he lost the ganglia, they're going to have some bullshit line of saying, since you lost your ganglia, you've really stepped up. And I think that now that your fear is so gone that you can be a captain and they're going to put him in the chair. That's what they're going to do. I know.
So his first decision as pre-captain was creating, like, starting the war.
I mean, who hasn't?
I did write a note. Write a note in my watching that for some reason, like, I've been kind of on and off about the Kelpians, the makeup, like the whole idea of like how they are and everything like that. For some reason, and kudos to the performers behind the masks, but they felt realist in this episode, despite all the flaws with the episode. I felt like they were like very, very tangible as characters, as aliens. I really enjoyed that.
I mean, Doug Jones, of course, always does good, and they hired a phenomenal actress, Hannah Spear, who just kills it as Saran Wrap, and I think put them together.
I feel like Saru's sister is better than Saru in this episode.
Say what?
Saru's sister, Sarana, is better than Saru in this episode.
Right. She was. I think that both of them together were a real highlight. And I honestly,
you felt they were siblings.
Right. You actually, like, when they met, when they saw each other, like I felt something when I was watching the episode. Like when they saw each other and she drops the basket, he takes the hood off. Like, I was like, man, this is like, the acting is very good. Like there's no question in my mind is, whether the acting was good or not. And I actually kind of wish that we had just spent a bit, like, I wish that the story was just a little reworked and it was more about Saru going back to his people and trying to maybe try to work with them about trying to overthrow the Ba'ul, or maybe he was just going on a personal journey because he lost his ganglia. He needed to go back home. And then we just spent more time with the two of them. And maybe like, I was really, really disappointed that his dad was gone. I was disappointed because I for sure thought that we were going to have a father, daughter, son dynamic going on that was going to be ideology based, and they were going to be butting heads, and I think that would have made for a stronger character episode.
And it might have been really, yeah. I did like that Serana is the high priestess. I would have liked the father to be alive. I would have loved it if the father was somehow complicit in the Baul, like when you become a high priest, like when you become a high priest, you know stuff. Yeah.
Okay, right. That's something that would be interesting to show us. If they showed us that the high priests are actually in contact with the Baul, but they've established that the high priests have, like, no Kelpian has seen the Baul in over however many years.
Right. They get a little bit more info, but they haven't laid eyes on them.
But it would be interesting that, like, even if they've never laid eyes on them, they talk with them, they're in contact with them, and it's explained that the Baul come up with this shit story that you guys need to do this, because if you don't do this, then this will happen and you'll die and what have you. And this is part of the balance. But then these guys are, like, basically complicit, but they're also being brainwashed, or they're being, I don't know.
Or no, right. Like, so the thing is it could easily be like, we need the Kelpians to power something, or we need them for sustenance, and you need to provide us a few of your people to do that. And if you don't do this, we're going to wipe out your whole culture. And then then it puts it back onto the priests of, like, I don't agree with this. This is terrible. But if we don't play along, we're going to be overpowered easily and all be killed. And they would be complicit, but they would be stuck. It would be a catch-22, right? Mm-hmm. And then that would be Saru's chance to really rise up and say, like, no, we can do this, and we can do this. And then that's when the Discovery and the Federation show up and say, we're going to support these people, and we're going to help liberate them from their oppressors. And then that's a different story. You know what I mean? Like, that's another story, as opposed to what we got, which was very, like, to me, it just felt kind of a little bit disjointed and all over the place. And I just felt like we could have spent more time with the sister and him. And again, like, the dad not being there was a huge missed opportunity. You know, I think it was very, very big missed opportunity there.
I think also this episode could have benefited from being a little longer, or perhaps a two-parter. Like, I think that it could have been, you know, like, fleshed out a little bit more, and you could have had, like, more impact, and could have invested a lot of. Excuse me, I'm burping from my beer. so pro, hashtag so pro.
Yeah,
I did write a note that I felt like Serana's makeup also was somehow subtly an improvement on Saru's makeup. Like, there were a little bit more, there were, like, interesting purpley kind of pinkish colors in there, and just, like, smoother. Like, I just felt like, I don't know, something about her makeup was very pleasant compared to Saru's, which.
Yeah, the mouthpiece around the lips.
Oh yeah, you could see her teeth. You don't see Saru's teeth.
Saru's makeup is not good.
Yeah, Saru's makeup
never been good.
It's good in certain parts, but, like, especially, like, in this area, it's very noticeably bad. And I know I pointed that out during my Klingon video.
Can't act.
They do the same thing with the Klingons, where they add the makeup, but you can see the person's lip separate from the Klingon lip in a lot of.
Oh, interesting.
So for Saru, they just covered it, so now that's why you can't see any of his mouth. You know, you can't see any of it.
I mean, we've had redesigns of makeup before. Let's see Doug Jones's teeth, guys. Like, we want to, you know, like, let's get that.
Show us. Hashtag release the teeth.
That's a second evolution. He loses half his jaw.
He actually just walks into the bridge and he's just Doug Jones. You know, that would be sad. That would be, yeah. Listen, when's the last time you saw Doug Jones act that he wasn't in makeup? Now that subverts expectations.
Yeah, true.
Well, actually, when I watched Black Panther, I saw there was Ulysses Claw is Andy Serkis, and I was surprised to see Andy Serkis just being Andy Serkis. I was like, oh god, like, I haven't seen this in a while.
There's absolutely room for Doug Jones to appear as himself. Like, there's no reason why they can't do that. I think that would be a fun thing to do, like, as a human.
Well, they've switched out Arian's actor, haven't they? They've done the switcheroo with the Arian.
Yeah, I wonder what's behind that. Can we talk about that scene real quick? So what's going on there, like, with the sphere being a slice? What do you think? What do you guys think with the slice of pie? How's it all going to factor in?
The thing, nobody's talking about this. Nobody on YouTube or on Twitter or on the blogs are talking.
We're doing it. We're doing it now.
Like, nobody's talking about the short trek Calypso. And the reason I bring it up is there are several key things that are happening in there. One, it's 1,000 years in the future. Two, he's stuck in an enemy escape pod with an episode of Betty Boop on replay, which is
I don't understand.
An episode of Betty Boop on replay, which is weird. What is going on? And then he questions like, oh, that was part of the old society, or that was like, he says something to that effect to the computer. And there's obviously something happening. Something happened to the Federation, and then something happened to where the Discovery was left at a specific spot for easily 1,000 or more years. And I feel like that concept is going to tie in with the sphere and with the android chick. And I really do, Ariam, sorry. I really feel like even her voice, the way she talks, the way she speaks, sounds eerily similar to the voice of the computer that we hear in Calypso. I feel like those things, there was a reason they made the Calypso episode. They're not going to spend, you know, $10 million on an episode for have it to not be.
Were those short trek episodes like $10 million?
Those short trek episode must have cost like fucking $10, right? Because they filmed it in the Discovery set. You know what? I praised The Brightest Star because I said, hey, look, this feels like they've actually invested in it. They've made a set, they've done CG, but it turns out they didn't. They just reused the set from a Discovery episode.
But it works.
So
it works.
I praised the episode.
Well, what came first, the chicken or the egg? There,
yeah, exactly.
Correct first.
Does it matter? They knew they were going to do the Discovery episode anyway. So even if they did the short treks episode first, then it was an investment well spent.
Well, I think that they did that for all of the short treks. I really
the short treks were just Discovery sets, though, weren't they?
But I would say 2 out of the 4 were. I would argue that the
Kelpie, the mud ones are pretty dynamic.
The mud sets, all of the mud sets were in episode 1 of season 2.
But still, it looked like they did a good job of like doing different angles or redressing the sets. I felt
they had the 2 different bridges, the one that Mud was actually on, and then the one that the Tellarite was on.
Right. The Tellarite bridge was a reset of Spock's quarters.
Was it? I have to watch it again to check.
I couldn't tell.
Well,
it was good.
It was done Spock's window with it. Anyway,
I'll check it again. Yeah. But
I seriously believe you're mistaken.
Without wanting to get back into the Discovery show, they're going to tie all the short treks back into the Discovery regular.
I don't think so. The fact that they retconned The Brightest Star means that the short treks don't matter.
How do they retcon?
What do you mean they retconned it?
Georgiou comes in on the Shenzhou shuttle number 3 in The Brightest Star.
No.
In this episode, it's explained that she comes from whatever other ship it is.
Archimedes. Wait, are you sure it's...
And they took off the SHN from the ship, from the shuttle. They retconned what ship she was on. It means they don't
give a shit about the
short treks. Yes. They made these things. It was interesting. They're just trying to release one. They're just trying to release one episode a month on their streaming service so that people will watch them, but they don't matter because the Tilly thing. Tilly should have been court-martialed for what she did. What she did doesn't exist. What she did will never be brought up again ever because it doesn't matter. All right. The short treks don't count.
Wait, so you're certain that also, she comes in on a Shenzhou shuttle?
Yeah. Nick
has
this brilliant imagination, right?
She comes in on the Shenzhou shuttle, but does that mean that she was a part of the Archimedes? Because all that they said was the Archimedes is the one that tried to make first contact with them.
But they did say that Lieutenant.
But they took away
in the episode. They say
on the shuttle in the episode.
In the episode it says Lieutenant Georgiou was serving on the Archimedes at the time. They explicitly stated so that. That is a retcon. That's interesting. I didn't even realize that. That's like so interesting.
Hold on. I gotta go. I gotta go back. I gotta go back. And
here's the thing, Nick. You're intelligent and you're inspired to believe that Ariam's voice is similar to the computer voice in Calypso. Yes. But that's because you're thinking of this in a very narrative story point of view. What's really happening is they just thought in very two-dimensional ways, we need a computer voice to do the computer. And on a very separate level, they think we need a computer voice to do Ariam. And so just they made the voices sound similar the same way everything is blue. Because every time they need something that looks or feels alien, they're like, hey, let's paint it blue.
I disagree with that.
You're saying they're winging it, and I'm saying they're winging it less.
Yeah, I would say that they made a slight change to what happened in The Brightest Star, but I would say that the fact that the Discovery, the USS Discovery, has been sitting in the same place for 1,000 years without her crew, and the crew, the captain, the person that told the ship that it has to stay there. Whether it's connected back to Arium or not, that's just a theory of mine. I just think it's going to work out that way. But separate that. I do believe that the fact that the ship itself has been sitting in the same spot for 1,000 years is that story element will be tied in at some point.
But I have a final episode of Discovery at the end,
and possibly
I have a direct message for CBS and the powers that be at CBS. Please go back to The Brightest Star and just change the name of the shuttle to the Archimedes, and that way, I mean, you can do. It's a digital world. George Lucas does it. George Lucas does it all the time. Like, just make that little tiny change. It's only going to cost you $1 million.
Maybe don't write like the initials of a ship on the shuttle. It's not necessary. It's not an element that is necessary in any way. Just don't write it. Write the name of the ship. I have
to go back and verify what you're saying, but I believe you. Did you go back and like watch the footage, Sean?
I'm pulling up the scene.
Oh, you have it?
Yeah.
Nick is what? Boot it up.
Nick is on it.
Boot up.
While Nick does that, I want to shift over back to Arium for a second. Do you think I saw something on Twitter where someone said they thought it was like a really creepy scene. Do you think there's something going on with that? Like, is this going to explain why we don't see automatons or things like that? What is Arium? Like, do you have any ideas?
People have been talking about this. What is creepy in like?
I didn't think it was creepy too. I thought it was cool, but still, I'm just saying. Like,
they just filmed her face from close up because they wanted to film her face as a close-up. That's all. What bugs me is, from what I understood, enhanced humans weren't supposed to be a thing, and she's clearly enhanced.
Sean, you're 100% right. He literally says, a lieutenant serving in the Archimedes, the ship drops down and has no SHN on the front of it. You're right, 100%. Why the fuck did they do that?
It's a useless retcon. That's the worst thing about it.
That's a WTF.
Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about that either. Nobody is talking about that.
This is why Sean waits till Monday or Tuesday to release this.
Why did they do that?
This is
so stupid.
It's dumb.
It's a really. Hey guys, why did you do that? I feel like that's a question worth answering.
You know what? I feel like Star Trek Discovery, in its concept, the spore drive, the bowel, all of this, if they had given it to people that were writing Deep Space Nine, right, R.S. Stephen, By, etc., they would have made such a good Star Trek with all of this.
But they're busy. Like, Deep Space Nine people are doing the Orville and like, it's
fucking trash.
But they're doing that. That's what they're doing. That's what they're on right now.
You're not allowed to say anything negative about the Orville.
I'm sorry, Nick. I'll tell you what.
Especially on Gary's birthday.
You think the Prime Directive here is like wobbly, to say the least, or the General Order 1 is applied in a weird way? There's this episode this season on the Orville where they like someone, essentially their Prime Directive, their first contact Prime Directive, is like, if someone reaches out to space, they can contact that species, right?
Yep.
So that, you've seen the episode or not?
The one where the two of those people get stuck in the concentration camp for a while.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Okay, so how biased is that episode? Because the whole concept is this species have based their system or their like political structure on astrology,
right?
And to maybe many of the scientific community, astrology isn't a real thing. It's not science. It's not something that you
can base right. That's what their society has done, right?
Okay, but the thing is, the Orville doesn't treat this in a way that Star Trek used to treat things, whereas we're presenting to you this. These are the two sides of the argument. What do you think about it? Have a discussion. The Orville comes in and says, astrology is dumb. Fuck people that believe in it. And this entire society is stupid. And that's the episode.
So I would compare that episode to an episode. So season, I don't have to take this whole conversation into the Orville. Season 2 of the Orville.
Yeah, let's keep that quick.
Season 2 of the Orville is disappointing to me for separate reasons. I mean, we can talk about that offline. But the thing is there was an episode of season 1 in the Orville where they had the episode,
which is an episode of Black Mirror. But continue, carry on.
But the thing with that is
that Saru?
That's Saru. That's a drawing of Saru. Anyways, go on.
That's literally terrifying. I don't know. That's not Saru. I don't know who that is. Yeah. That looks like
it will be.
Seen this
it will be. Once he's evolved 7 times, it will be.
That looks like the sketch of the leprechaun people were seeing in Alabama. You know, might just be a crackhead. Yeah.
Actually, that would be a Kelpian, but if it was like a Rick and Morty Easter egg Kelpian.
That's right.
Sorry.
That's true.
Sorry, I totally interrupted your thought. Finish your thought.
So the thing is, with the Orville, they had a season 1 episode with the likes, right? And that was a good episode because the Orville ship had to play into the society to try to get their guy out of that situation, and it just so happened to work out. But again, it left it up to kind of the viewer to say like, oh, this is like a serious thing, and people do really deal with this. It was a good topic because we deal with that relatively regularly on a regular day-to-day basis. The thing with the astrology episode is they just came up with a way to trick the entire planet into thinking that they were wrong about what how they interpreted the different astrologic signs, and then they got their people out of it, which is foolish. You know, it was very foolish. Like, it was a missed opportunity, and it also upset me because it's like it wasn't just like a few days. Like, I don't remember all the details of the episode, but it was like weeks or like months that they were in this concentration camp, and it's like
at least a week or something.
It was longer than a week. It was like it was like over a month, because I remember they talked with Ted Danson, Admiral Ted Danson, over the VidCon. He was like, I know you've been there for X amount of time, but the Orville needs to get back to doing what it needs to do. So they moved on and forced them to do that.
What is he
what are you showing me, Sohail? What is
I'm showing you guys that I got my first post on Instagram that's more than 1,000 likes.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
Congratulations.
Is it a picture of you?
Oh, no, it's a picture of the beautiful. Oh, it's gone. It's guys. I saw it on Twitter and I reposted it.
So it's not your sketch of Saru though.
But you should put that on.
No, that'll get like 10,000 likes.
Absolutely.
Going back to Discovery, because I know we're. Oh, hi, buddy.
Good. Silence. You're purring too loud.
We got it. We can't go for 3 hours on these discussions, so I just want to bring it back to Discovery. Thank you for the awesome points about the Orville. Because I still have questions. I actually have questions. So
go shoot.
Go ahead. Hit it. Rapid fire.
Where do you think we're going with Culber?
Nowhere.
Where do you want to go with Culber? What would you like to see with Culber?
I didn't expect them to make it about him feeling weird about his body. I figured that they would make it so that they were weird around Tyler, but I have no idea where they're going with. I don't know what they're doing with the story.
The scene with Culber made me really uncomfortable because I actually thought that like he might not even be feeling the same feelings for Stamets anymore, for Paul, like
for sure. And I don't know if they're gonna head down that pathway. I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting thing. I really like Dr. Pollard. I think she's cool. I hope she sticks around, even though Dr. Culber's back. I think it'd be great to have both.
There's a funny sequence right at the beginning where she's like talking to Saru about his stuff, and like she says something, and then like the camera has to like pan, like zoom in, you know, and cut into a close up of Saru. So like she finishes her sentence, and then she just like finishes it, and then she just like turns and then like walks away. It's like super awkward as the camera's like panning in. It's I don't know. Anyway, sorry, that was a
that same scene also, by the way, was pretty awesome. I liked how they went from the visual of Saru's like lungs or whatever to the nebula, and then like kind of, and it was also nice, Sean, since you're all Burnham centric is bad, to see Saru narrating the episode. And I also want to point out that in the other a few episodes ago, they said last time on Discovery and Laurel was narrating it, so they are playing with these like interesting kind of like.
The last time on Discovery doesn't count because it's not part of the episode. No one gives a shit.
I know, but you know what I'm saying. It's like it's like, but she's like nuke. I guess the last thing that we need to cover is the whole dynamic with Section 31 and Pike, Tyler and Pike.
Okay.
Any thoughts on that? I have some thoughts.
I asked last time, why does Georgie work for Section 31? So that's still a question. But why is Tyler so invested in it? Dude's not even a Starfleet officer. He's a Klingon, right?
He's been a part of Section 31 for like 30 minutes.
Why is he so invested in this thing?
It's true.
Oh my god! I mean, well, he was pretending to be. He was
does have that way.
That he was invested in Starfleet because he was programmed to think he was invested in Starfleet.
Right.
But then he goes all Klingon, and then he's like, "Fuck Starfleet! I'm gonna snap the boy's neck, and then I'm gonna run off." Right? Why is he now all about this section? Like, what is Section 31? Why is it so inciting to all of these people? The Emperor of the Mirror Universe?
That he feels some beholdenness to Section 31 because they essentially
saved his kid.
They saved his kid. And I could understand that. I really could. But the way that they played it in this episode, and that's why I covered in my review, which is the whole episode, he's just bitching the whole time. Everything anyone's trying to do, he's like, well, that's not going to work. What are you going to do? You're just going to ask him for it? And
well,
it's like,
you know, it is. I love Pike's lines like, well, you know, when you're coming into someone's home unexpectedly, it's always good to say.
He's like, so much for knocking on the front door. Man, get off the bridge.
Like, why is he on the bridge?
Pike is too lenient on the crew. I do think there needs to be a little bit of discipline there.
It's a bully crew. That's the thing.
The other episode wasn't though, and just the last episode, he fucking checked Tyler, and Tyler fucking backed down.
It was great. It was awesome.
Who was lying to him about what's going on, which they didn't cover again in this episode because she never had a conversation with him on screen about her relationship with Tyler. But he calls her on that shit immediately, saying, "That's not the Giorgio I remember, and you're lying to me about your relationship with this guy sitting in that cafeteria right now, and don't play with me, girl." And this episode, he's like, Saru, I don't think you should talk during this conversation. And Saru's like, fuck you, Bo.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Saru, come on, man.
It's like really, yeah. I mean, like, I get that the crew of the Discovery is not used to having a captain or whatever is going on, but yeah, it's a little too disrespectful for my taste. I have to say that despite my trepidation about the Red Angel, the way that the scene was done, cinematic and beautiful and gave me goosebumps. I thought it was actually a pretty cool scene. What did you guys think?
What is the point of the Red Angel?
Well, we don't know.
Well, we don't know. That's the mystery of the season.
Oh, you guys don't play Star Trek Online, right? You guys haven't touched it.
I haven't yet. I have to buy a PC.
It's not the Iconians. I really don't. I don't want to.
No, it's not the Iconians because the Iconians can't time travel. It destroys their mind. So that's the Iconians are off the table.
Ooh, good. Nice.
So the thing is
that's what the video game says. It's not what Discovery says.
Well, but you know they pull from it. You could.
They do. They do pull from it, and they connect because Discovery's on the video game now too, along with their voice actors. So
they connect the same way that the Netflix Marvel series used to connect with the MCU. All right, they get scrapped and they try to
they're making it work. But the reason I bring it up is the outfit that the red person is wearing. This time traveling being is wearing.
It's the
very
torchbearer
similar.
Suit,
What's up?
It's the torchbearer suit.
It's not the torchbearer suit, but it looks very similar to the Solanae Dyson Sphere armor set that you get in the game. It's very similar in aesthetics to that particular armor set. So my thought is that these are going to be.
What Saru actually says is that the Red Angel is a humanoid wearing a mechanized with tech far beyond our present.
And the Solanae are the ones who built the Dyson spheres.
Oh.
And it's very possible that they will connect back into that. It's just a theory that I'm thinking about because when I saw the outfit, it immediately reminded me of the armor that you get in the game.
Did you guys, at first viewing, I thought it was definitely a female, but on second viewing, it is unclear. I don't know if it's a male or female.
Those are burning hips. No. I don't know. Again, somebody made the comment on my video, and I even said there, it is weird to base it off of that, but since we have no real information to go off of, we've got to go off of what we got. And just looking at the silhouette of the individual, it appears to be female based off of the structure of the actual hips and the way it indents inwards and then comes back up into the upper torso.
I don't see Discovery making it a male.
You broke up. What'd you say? Sorry.
See Discovery making it a male in any case.
The thing is they were leaving it very ambiguous, but now I think it's clearly a woman.
If it's not Michael Burnham, okay.
I have a question for you guys. Did you guys ever believe it was a man though? The Red Angel.
Yes.
Did you?
For a while, I thought it might be Spock.
I think
not thinking about a person specifically, not thinking about Spock or Burnham or Picard or whatever. Just you guys, in my mind, the Red Angel. The moment we heard about the Red Angel, it was like, okay, so there's this deity woman doing things, right? It was
angels
female to me.
Angels in mythology, biblical mythology, angels are non-gendered. They're actually the original non-binary beings. They have both penises and vaginas.
I see the point that you're making, Sean. I would argue that my original thought, because
even this episode, they got rid of Saru's father and they used his sister rather.
Right. I would say that my thought process went from it being a completely alien species, no genders involved, to it being Spock specifically. And then now I'm at the point where I believe it to be Michael Burnham or the android character, whose name I keep forgetting.
The episode does tackle a question or raises a question of whether or not the Red Angel is saving these people or whether it's interfering in another way. And that's basically the debate between Tyler and Pike. I think it's pretty evident that the Red Angel's got good intentions, but what do you guys think?
I would love for it to be the other way. I would love it for Pike to be wrong here and for the Red Angel to actually be not necessarily a bad person, but somebody who definitely was doing something for their own benefit and really wasn't about like just saving people. It's also about saying stuff in the future.
It would be an interesting take to say, look, there's this all-powerful kind of being. It's doing time traveling. It's doing population displacement, and you find out that they have their own kind of prime directive that they're trying to apply. But it turns out that, like everyone else, they're biased. They're not objective. They're subjective, and they're doing what they think is best. And it turns out that in certain decisions aren't good. You can't blindly follow them, because they might be wrong. The same way Pike was probably wrong in this episode.
All right, cool. I feel like we covered everything, but if you guys have any more things to add, I'm going to go into the nitpick corner and just say that I hated with a passion that it was so obvious that the Baul Bridge was the same transporter room that Saru beamed out of just a second in the same scene. He beams from the Discovery transporter to the Baul chamber, and it's the same fucking set, and it annoyed the hell.
So I would say this to that. I would say this to that. I don't know if we're supposed to respond back to the nitpicks, but
yes.
my thing with that is I actually enjoyed the fact that it was a little cheap. And maybe that sounds terrible, but Discovery is so expansive with their visuals, and it's always so like breathtaking. But the fact that it was like they put like trash bags around the side to like make it look alien, it was just like it felt very like old school, kind of like TOS almost. Like it was like,
I guess it's true, but I
also
have
nostalgic. It was like a little nostalgia cookie of like,
look at you
using this set.
Look at you. I thought the same thing. I had that same thought on Kaminar when they were walking through the little path with the flowers. I thought this is a very TOS looking. It could fit like right into TOS with like Saru and Burnham wearing the the Kelpian robes or whatever. I had that same exact feeling, but I didn't feel that in the bridge scene. But the other thing is like, how is everything you need to do in the same fucking place? Like, why is it that why doesn't Saru and Sarana have to go to another room to get the communications online, to another place to get the signal to do, it just felt like, why is it so, and like, why was nothing trying to stop them? Like, how is it that like there were like, why won't the like magic handcuffs that come out of like the walls, why don't they have fucking lasers or phasers that could shoot you and stop you from trying to like mess with their tech? Like, it just seemed really, that was my biggest nitpick.
Why didn't the Discovery doesn't give a shit? They have they do plot convenience. That's it.
Well, I'm gonna say a lot of episodes of Trek and many other.
I know, but I have this.
But I agree.
Nitpick. I have
the same. This isn't a Discovery problem. It's a modern television problem. This is a modern thing, right? This is like Star Wars episode, whatever it was, like 7, right? The Force Awakens has the same kind of issues all over it, right?
It does.
It's just because in modern television and in modern movies, you want to move the plot along, and it doesn't matter if certain details don't matter, which is stupid. It's ironic, where you have fandom which is more and more nitpicky. You should be thinking about every single detail and every single thing. But there's a clear disconnect between the people that are making these shows and making the movies today and the people that are watching them.
I would agree with you.
Go ahead.
I would agree with you, but
Discovery's
the
heavy
thing
on
is when a film or television show is entertaining enough, I see what you're saying about fans being more nitpicky. You don't notice it if it's entertaining enough. You don't notice it. Like even Avengers.
You can do both. Annihilation is very entertaining, and I couldn't nitpick anything out of that.
Avengers Infinity War, I could sit here and nitpick it for hours about different things that they could have, what could have the crew, what could have the cast members done, like what could have these characters done in the film to undo what has occurred. And the thing is when you're watching it, you don't think about it because you're entertained and you're wrapped up into the story. And right, if we were wrapped up into this episode of Discovery, the whole nitpick of certain things wouldn't have occurred to us if we hadn't gone back and watched it several times. And all of us, especially content creators, people who write about and talk about Discovery, like we watch these episodes multiple times in order to get everything that we need to get. So that's why we also hone in on things that other people who watch it once and then go on with their lives may not have noticed. You know what I mean? Like you noticed the Shenzhou thing. Like I didn't even notice that, even though I've watched. I watched this full episode once, and then I went through and grabbed all my clips. I didn't notice it the second or third times going through. It's just if it's entertaining enough, it doesn't really matter so much about the nitpicks the first go through. That's my point. Is that if it's entertaining enough, like your nitpicks are okay because people won't pick up on it because they're wrapped up into what's happening on screen. And that's what you want. As a filmmaker, that's what you want. You want people to be so engrossed that they don't notice how stupid, like even The Dark Knight, which is a great Batman film that people love, the first sequence, the very first scene where the bad guys who are about to rob the bank blow out a window on a building far away from the bank and then zip line across the street. Beautiful scene, and it looks cool, but it's completely retarded and has no concept of any normalcy in reality of why you would be able to enter into the roof. They could have entered the roof several other ways. But it looked cool, and people were wrapped up in the story, so it worked. But you don't pick up on that until like your fifth viewing of the movie. So that's my point.
What did you guys think of the Baul, the command base, like, in terms of production design? And like, do you think it's strange that this is pretty much the most epic thing we've ever seen? At least we don't see anything quite like this until the Borg, right? Like they seemed huge, these ships, but then I don't know, maybe the Discovery's small. But
the ships in space I loved that were surrounding the Discovery. The one that was below the water, I think, cost too much money for them to make it look exactly like Apophis' ship from Stargate SG-1.
Oh, it did look like, or Stargate Atlantis as well. You're right. Like it kind of looked like that too.
Well, it looked, or not Apophis, sorry, Anubis, like the thing that comes up out of it and then shoots the little energy rays and blows up all the other Hatak vessels. Right,
it's true.
It looks identical to that. They spent too much money to make it look exactly like that.
And I did like that the ships could change orientation. It like because the Baul seem to live in this like magnetic liquid or whatever. I did like the way that the ships could be oriented this way or that way, and they could.
I'm assuming that there's only that one room and maybe another room with a hallway that aren't completely liquid. And
dude, the ship. The ship is like 50 on the base.
Yeah, right. It's like a pool in which all of these pseudo founders are living, right? And
get out of here with your founders joke. Now listen, Star Trek loves a good pool. Okay, who's not living in a pool? Okay? Who's not living in a pool?
Well, here in Florida, we live in pools 90% of our lives, so
well, that's true.
It's all right. So
honestly, okay, I know that. So maybe this comes down to what you were saying about Infinity War and how entertainment, pushes away the nitpicks. But I do have nitpicks about this episode, but I was enjoyed by the episode, and I think that I can argue all day about Pike's decision. And I think we can all say that he made the wrong decision, or like the wrong call was made regarding General Order 1, but I'm okay with that. I'm fine with the show showing us that people make bad decisions. And I don't think that there being a bad decision makes the show bad. I think, on the contrary, it enhances, because this is the first actual episode that we've talked about thematically and in its concept, rather than about how good or how bad it was in itself.
I also think not a bad. It was there was no choice. I feel like the Discovery is kind of like in a rock and a hard place, and it was either genocide, allow genocide to happen, or try to intervene. And it ended up being, actually, the truth is they actually didn't do anything. The freaking Red Angel came in at the last minute. Mother Burnham came in at and EMP'd the hell out of the bubble technology.
I would argue that point. Well, should I say in my video, like, multiple bad decisions led to it coming down to either we start shooting at the Ba'ul or they commit genocide.
Right.
When the Ba'ul contacted them the first time and said, "Listen, we want that Kelpian," like, they should have just backed off. They should have just left. The red signals, the signal's gone. Right, the red woman is not readily apparently there. They could have easily backed off and sent in a different ship, or contacted your boy Leland, because they are investigating the red
your
woman.
Boy Leland, I like that.
Contact your boy Leland, who can decide the fucking rock and get super close and then figure out if they know anything. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I feel like because they made multiple poor decisions, that it led to that final thing where it's like we can either ignore it or we have to engage. That's my problem. That's
a no bullshit Vulcan captain on the Discovery would actually be very helpful. Someone that just respects and follows all of Starfleet's most respected laws and regulations.
I think we were going to get
stop this shenanigans.
There was a tease. There was a tease at the.
They were going to go pick up a Vulcan. They were going to go pick up a Vulcan. And they got piked.
They got piked.
That didn't happen.
Bam!
Boom! They got piked. So that didn't happen. But I would like that. I would like an actual Vulcan captain to come in and be like, "Look, this is exploration. This is Discovery. Let's do this. Let's do this right."
Right.
Because you guys have had like this terrible track record. At this point,
I think that'll create an interesting.
But
I think that'll create an interesting dynamic with Burnham, who will have a lot of interesting, may have an interesting relationship with that.
In order to redeem Burnham, she needs to be put back into place. Seriously, she's
all right.
Always.
Should we? I know that Nick doesn't rate, so Spirits for Nick. We'll let you go. I'll go first. I originally was going to give this episode a 7.5.
Will Nick ever give a real rating?
You hear that? You hear that, Sean? I was originally going to give this episode a 7.5. First on 10 episode of Star Trek Discovery. I'm settling on an 8. I'm going to give it an 8. I think that I actually like it a little bit more because of our discussion as well as a rewatch. But it's still not a 10, which is crazy. Like that I was all the way until now. So
8.
It's my first 8.
CBS shill over here. So just. Sean, what's your rating?
I don't know, actually. This is crazy. I'm going to be hated by people. I think I'm going to give this a 7.
Wow. Why would you? Who cares if you're hated? But yes.
I'm even surprising myself. Originally, I wanted to give this a 6, but the more I think about it, the more it's created. I've been talking with Nick about this since freaking yesterday, which is the only Star Trek. It's the only Discovery episode that's ever done this to us.
That's true.
That we talk about, and we're actually talking about, and we're not talking about this acting was shit, or this canon connection. We're talking about the plot and the theme and the decision, and I think that's great. I think that's. Yeah, sure. It's better when it's done in a Darmok way or in a first contact way. First contact being the episode way, but
You mean the Riker fucks an alien episode?
No, it's not Riker fucks an alien. That is not the episode. You come out with the wrong things.
Yeah, Riker has sex with the Darmok alien. That's what it is.
Riker was in an episode, so he might as well fuck an alien. But that's not the point.
Yeah, I mean, how else are you gonna make first contact? For me, as a rating, I think
He's gonna give it like 3 spheres out of 7 Burnhams or something.
19 Burnham, 19 Red Angel Burnham.
One, Red Angel Michael Burnham being a bad episode. 17 Saru's kicking Michael Burnham to the ground being a great episode. I would put this right around 11 spheres exploding at the same time.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's a lot of spheres exploding. I mean, honestly, you wouldn't want to be around.
You would not. You would not. Why not? That's a big NO on that one. So.
I don't know what to make of that, but I accept it.
Is that a 5? Does that convert to a 5 in human?
It doesn't convert to whatever you could possibly comprehend.
Actually,
I can't.
Because you're not a xenobiologist.
Wait,
you're not
Sean, put up on the screen your rating.
Oh yes.
With me, I just leave it. Can you? I think that we should give it a Sean rating system. We should do this 11-point rating system and say what it is on this. So here, hang on.
Let's see if Sean... Do I have it? Do I have? I don't think I have it.
Damn
anymore.
it!
Professional. So
I don't think I have it anymore.
It's one is absolute bullshit is the worst you can get, and true greatness is the best you can get, and then in the middle is average. So where does it fall from between absolute bullshit and true greatness?
Wait a minute, I'm gonna try and find it.
Right in between being an actual shuttle from the Shenzhou and then just being
I love that you just do not want to give ratings. So I think that we're gonna assume, based on your tone and your excitement level, that it's at least a 6. I'm gonna say it's a 5 for you. Is my safe bet there? So
my rating. Okay, it's 11 exploding spheres. So, okay.
Fine. Between Sean and I guess.
Okay, wait a minute. Here we go. I can show you. I can share my screen. I have a rating.
Here we go.
Share the screen.
All right. Here
it? There it is.
Oh yeah. There it is.
There it is. Look at that.
So you get absolute bullshit at the end, then the bullshit, bad, mediocre, average on the low side, average on the high side. All right,
okay, but
good, great.
Talk about one thing really fast before we get into this. Why do you have 8 separate favorites for Gmail at the top there?
Those are my 8 Gmail addresses. Yeah. Can you stop?
Why do you have 8 Gmail accounts?
You have 8 Gmail
accounts? You running some kind of scam?
Yeah.
One is a common one for my wife and I for all the important papers. One is my wife's. One is my personal one. One is the music that I make. One is the Trick on the Tube account. And I also made one for the Unity, subject Unity, etc. We have multiple.
You know, Gmail has this thing where you can make a folder and you can just put the emails into it. You don't.
I know, but like so that I don't have to click in and out every time. Like change accounts, I can just click on that, and then it opens the email address that I want.
You're the reason why our audio. You're the reason why our audio cuts out on these broadcasts. You're sucking up on your computer.
All right, okay, there we go. We're off. We're off the internet.
Oh, come on!
The internet's gone.
Trash.
How dare you?
I put this episode.
Gmail.
Okay, so
I put this episode at from good to great. I guess would be like where or good.
Pick one. You've got a
good.
Good. Okay. You have a professional rating system here. I'm gonna go with all right.
I'm gonna go with where's the tab for 11 spheres? Where's that at? I don't see that on this list.
I don't know.
I'm gonna
all
go
right,
with
enough.
Absolute bullshit.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
No, I won't do
average way down.
I'll just do
the average comes real quick. Any thoughts before mediocre? That's tune into Drunk Space 9 to find out what that means. Anyways, before we go, any thoughts on the little teaser for the episode, guys? Before we go,
I don't have any thoughts about the teaser. I'm going to throw one more final theory out just for the record, and that the red person is going to be a physical manifestation of the USS Discovery itself.
Whoa.
What the fuck, dude? What? What is that?
Yeah, that's trippy shit.
And the Discovery, having all the logs of what had occurred in the past, comes back to help itself right some wrong.
That makes some friggin' time paradoxes, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I did love the warp sequence when the Discovery was in warp and we just saw the side of the saucer section and the top of the nacelle. That was beautiful. Yeah, it was really nice. Anyways, any thoughts, Sean, on the next episode? Little teaser that was there.
I don't know. I don't think about these next episodes. Honestly, the only thing I think about at this point is how late I am watching my True Detective episodes.
I don't think Spock's going to be the next episode.
What'd you say? Sorry. Did he die?
I don't know. He has these. He enters the nebula sometimes.
Not gonna get Spock next episode.
Okay, you're back. You're back.
So hey, you were gone for like the last 45 seconds.
I just said that CBS, they like to cut me off when I give theories. Just give it like,
you're watching.
That's right.
I like to think that I think that we're going to be misdirected again. I don't think we're actually going to see Spock. I think that little glimpse that we saw of him like rocking is going to be either like a memory hologram or some kind of weird thing that I just don't think we're going to get the actual Spock. Well, the real Spock,
people are upset because we haven't seen Spock yet. The less Spock we see, the better off I am. I don't want to see him. I don't want to see Spock.
Yeah,
I agree. Guys, this was a really fun discussion. I really appreciate you guys taking the time. It's like almost 2 hours that we've been yapping about this episode. Kudos to this episode for the lengthy discussion that we had. And audience, we'd love to hear from you and know what you think of the episode. Please comment down below in the comment section or write an email to Sohail, SOHAIL at starfleetboy.com. Please go check out Nick's channel at it's just Ketwalski, right? The Real Ketwalski is your Twitter handle.
Yeah.
And also check out Sean at Trek on the Tube, and also find him on Twitter. And if you don't know the rest of the Starfleet Boy gang, go check out previous episodes and go look everyone up. But shout out to everyone. Major love. I really love this, and I love you guys and LLAP, and we'll see you next time.